Vadis, chapter 13. Next morning, Petronius had barely finished dressing in the auditorium when Vinicius came, called by Tiresias. He knew that no news had come from the gates. This information, instead of comforting him as a proof that Lygia was still in Rome, weighed him down still more, for he began to think that Ursus might have conducted her out of the city immediately after her seizure, and hence before Petronius' slaves had begun to keep watch at the gates. It is true that in autumn, when the days become shorter, the gates are closed rather early, but it is true also that they are open for other persons going out, and the number of these is considerable. It was possible also to pass the walls by other ways well known, for instance, to slaves who wished to escape from the city. Vinicius had set out these people to all roads leading to the provinces, to watch men in the smaller towns, proclaiming a pair of fugitive slaves with a detailed description of Ursus and Lygia, coupled with offer of a reward for seizing them. But it was doubtful whether that pursuit will reach the fugitives, or even should it reach them, whether the local authorities will feel justified in making the arrest at the private instance of Vinicius without the support of a praetor. Indeed, there had not been time to obtain such support. Vinicius himself, disguised as a slave, had sought Lygia the whole day before, through every corner of the city, but had been unable to find at least the least indication of or trace of her. He had seen Aulo's servants, it is true, but they seemed to be seeking something also, and had confirmed him the belief that it was not Aulus who had intercepted the maiden, and the old general did not know what happened to her. When Tiresias announced to him then that there was a man who will undertake to find Lygia, he hurried with all speed to the house of Petronius, and barely had he finished saluting his uncle when he inquired for the man. "We shall see him at once, Eunice knows him," said Petronius. "She will come this moment to arrange the folds of my toga, and will give nearer information concerning him." "Oh, she whom thou hast the wish to bestow on me yesterday? The one whom thou didst reject, for which I am grateful, for she is the best vestiplica in the whole city." In fact, the vestiplica came in before he had finished speaking, and taking the toga laid on the chair inlaid with pearl. She opened the garment and threw it on Petronius' shoulder. Her face was clear and calm. Joy was in her eyes. Petronius looked at her. She seemed to him very beautiful. After a while, when she had covered him with the toga, she began to arrange it, bending at times to lengthen the folds. He noticed that her arms had a marvelous pale rose color, and her bosom and the shoulders the transparent reflections of pearl or alabaster. "Eunice," said he, "has the man come to Tiresias, whom thou didst mention yesterday?" "He has, lord." "What is his name?" "Chilonides." "Who is he?" "A physician, a sage, a soothsayer, who knows how to read people's fates and predict the future." "Has he predicted the future to thee?" Eunice was covered with blush, which gave rosy color to her ears and her neck even. "Yes, lord." "What has he predicted?" "That pain and happiness will meet me. Pain met thee yesterday at the hands of Tiresias, hence happiness also shall come." "It has come, lord, already. What? I remained," said she in a whisper. Petronius put his hand on her golden hair. "Thou hast arranged the folds well today, and I am satisfied with thee, Eunice." Under that touch her eyes were mist covered in one instant from happiness, and her bosom began to heave quickly. Petronius and Vinicius passed into the atrium, where Chilonides was waiting. When he saw them, he made a low bow. A smile came to the lips of Petronius, though as a smile came to the lips of Petronius at thought of suspicion of yesterday that this man might be Eunice's lover. The man who was standing before him could not be one's lover. In that marvelous figure there was something both foul and ridiculous. He was not old. In his dirty beard He was not old. In his dirty beard and curly locks a gray hair shone here and there. He had a lank stomach and stooping shoulders, so that the first cast of the eye he appeared to be humpbacked. Above that hump rose a large head, with a face of a monkey and also a fox. He, the eye of a of the eye was penetrating. His yellowish complexion was varied with pimples, and his nose covered with them completely might indicate too great a love for the bottle. He neglected apparel, composed of a dark tunic of goat's wool and a mantle of similar material in his holes in it, showed real simulated poverty. At a sight of him, Homer's Thersites came to the mind of Petronius. Hence, answering with a wave of the hand to his bow, he said, "A greeting, divine Thersites. How are the lumps which Ulysses came thee at Troy, and what is doing himself in Elysian fields?" "Noble lord," answered Chilonides, Ulysses, Ulysses, the wisest of the dead, sends a greeting through me to Petronius, the wisest of the living, and the request to cover my lumps with a new mantle. "Vaecate triformis," exclaimed Petronius, "the answer deserves a new mantle." But further conversation was interrupted by the impatient Vinicius, who inquired directly, "Dost thou know clearly what thou art undertaking?" When two households in two lordly mansions speak of naught else, and when half Rome is repeating the news, it is not difficult to know, answered Chilo. The night before last, a maiden named Nigia, but especially Calina, and reared in the house of Aulus Plautius, was intercepted. Thy slave were conducting her, O Lord, from Caesar's palace to thy insula, and I undertake to find her in the city, or if she has left the city, which is little likely, to indicate to thee, noble tribune, whither she has fled and where she has hidden. That is well, said Vinicius, who was pleased with the precision of the answer. What means hast thou to do this? Chilo smiled cunningly. Thou hast the means, Lord, I have the wit only. Petronius smiled also, for he was perfectly satisfied with this guest. That man can find the maiden, thought he. Meanwhile Vinicius wrinkled his joined brows and said, Wretch, in case thou deceive me for a gain, I will give command to beat thee with clubs. I am a philosopher, Lord, and a philosopher cannot be greedy of gain, especially of such as thou hast just offered magnanimously. Oh, art thou a philosopher? Inquired Petronius. Eunuchus told me that thou art a physician and soothsayer. Whence knowest thou Eunice? She came for me for aid, for my fame stuck her ears. What aid did she want? I didn't love, Lord. She wanted to be cured of an unrequited love. Didst thou cure her? I did more, Lord. I gave her an amulet which secures mutuality. In Paphos, on the island of Cyprus, is a temple, O Lord, in which is preserved a zone of Venus. I gave her 2 threads from that zone, enclosed in an almond shell. And this thou make her pay well for them? One can never pay enough for mutuality, and I, who lack 2 fingers on my right hand, am collecting money to buy a slave copyist to write down my thoughts and preserve my wisdom for mankind. Of what school of art, thou, divine sage? I am a cynic, Lord, because I wear a tattered mantle. I am a stoic because I bear poverty patiently. I am a peripatetic, for not owing a litter, I go on foot from one wine shop to another, and on the way teach those who promise to pay for a pitcher of wine. And a pitcher thou dost become a rhetor. Heraclitus declares that all is fluid, and canst thou deny, Lord, that wine is fluid? And he declares that fire is divinity. Divinity, therefore, is blushing in thy nose. But the divine Diogenes from Apollina declared that air is the essence of things, and the warmer the air, the more perfect the beings it makes, and from the warmest come the souls of sages. And since the autumns are cold, a genuine sage should warm his soul with wine. And wilt thou hinder, O Lord, a pitcher of even the stuff produced in Capua or Telesia, from varying heat to all bones operational to human body. Chilo Chilonides, where is that thy birthplace? On the Exunium Pontus, I come from Mesembria. O Chilo, thou art great and unrecognized, said the sage pensively. But Vinicius was impatient again. In view of hope which had gleamed before him, he wished Chilo to set out at once to his work. Hence the whole conversation seemed to him simply a vain of loss of time, and he was angry at Petronius. When wilt thou begin the search? Asked he, turning to the Greek. I have begun it already, answered Chilo, and since I'm here, I'm answering thy affable question. I'm searching yet. Only have confidence, honorable tribune. I know that thou wert to lose the string of thy sandal, I should find it, or him who picked it up on the street. Hast thou been employed in similar services? Asked Petronius. The Greek raised his eyes. Today men esteem virtue and wisdom too low, for a philosopher not to be forced to seek other means of living. What are thy means? To know everything, and to serve those with news who are in need of it, and who pay for it. O Lord, I need to buy a coppice, otherwise my wisdom will perish with me. If thou hast not collected enough yet to buy a sandal mantle, that Severus cannot be very famous. Modesty hinders me, but remember, Lord, that today there are no such benefactors as were numerous formerly, and for whom it was as pleasant to cover service with gold as to swallow any oyster from Puteoli. No, my services are not small, but the gratitude of my kind is small. At times when a valued slave escapes, who will find him, if not the only son of my father? When on the walls there are inscriptions against the divine papaya, who will indicate those who compose them? Who will discover the book stalls verses against Caesar? Who will declare what is said in the house of the knights and senators? Who will carry letters which the writers will not entrust to slaves? Who will listen to the news at the doors of barbers? For whom have wine shops and bake shops no secret? In whom do slaves trust? Who can see through every house, from the atrium to the garden? Who knows every street, every alley, and hidden place? Who knows what they say in the baths, and in the circus, and in the markets, in the fencing schools, in the slave dealers' sheds, and even in the arenas? By the gods, enough, noble sage, cried Petronius. We are drowning in thy services, thy virtue, thy wisdom, and thy eloquence. Enough. We want to know who thou art, and we know. But Vinicius was glad, for he thought that this man, like a hound, once put on the trail, will not stop till he had found the hidden place. Well, said he, those don't need indication. I need arms. Of what kind? Asked Vinicius, with astonishment. The Greek stretched one hand and the other made a gesture of counting money. Such are times, Lord, said he, with a sigh. Thou wilt be the ass, then, Petronius, to win the fortress with bags of gold? I am only a poor philosopher, answered Chilo, with humility. Yea, I have the gold. Vinicius tossed with a purse with the great caught in the air, though 2 fingers were lacking in his right hand. He raised his head then, and said, I know more than thou thinkest. I have not come empty-handed. I know that Aulus did not intercept the maiden, for I have spoken with his slaves. I know that she is not on the Palatine, for all are occupied with the infant Augusta, and perhaps I may even divine why ye prefer to search for the maiden with my help rather that with of the city guards and Caesar soldiers. I know that her escape was effected by a servant, a slave coming from the same country as she. He could not find assistance among slaves, for slaves all stand together, and will not act against thy slaves. Only a only a co-religionist will help him. Does hear, Vinicius, broke in Petronius. I have not said the same, word for word, to thee. That is an honor for me, said Chilo, the maiden lord. Continued he, return again to Vinicius. Worships beyond a doubt the same divinity as that most virtuous of Roman ladies, that genuine matron Pomponia. Have I heard this too, that Pomponia was tried in her own house for worshipping some kind of foreign god, but I cannot learn from her slave what god that is, and what his worships are called. If I could learn that, I should go to them, become the most devoted among them, and gain their confidence. But thou, Lord, who had passed, as I know too, a number of days in the house of the noble Atlas, canst thou not give me some information thereon? I cannot, said Vinicius. Ye have asked me long about various things, noble lords, and I have answered the questions. Permit me now to give one. Hast thou not seen, honored tribune, some statue, some offering, some token, some amulet on Pomponia or thy divine Ligia? Hast thou not seen them making signs to each other, intelligible to them alone? Signs? Why, yes, I saw once that Ligia made a fish on the sand. A fish! Ah, oh, did she do that once or a number of times? Only once. And art thou certain, Lord, that she outlined a fish? Oh, yes, answered Vinicius with roused curiosity. Does thy divine that means? Though I divine, exclaimed Chilo, and bowing in a sign of farewell, he added, my fortune scatter on you both equally all gifts, worthy lords. Give command to bring thee a mantle, said Petronius to him at parting. Ulysses give thee thank yous for Thersites, said the Greek, and bowing a second time he walked out. What will thou say of that noble sage? Inquired Petronius. This, this, that he will find Lygia, answered Vinicius with delight. But I will say, too, that were there a kingdom of rogues, he might be king of it. More certainly, I shall make a nearer acquaintance of this Stoic. Meanwhile, I must give command to perfume the atrium. But Chilonides, wrapping his new mantle about him, threw up his palm under its folds. The pursuit received from Vinicius, and admired both its weight and its tinkle. Walking on slowly and looking around to see if they were not looking at him from the house, he passed the portico of Livia, and reaching the corner of Clivius Virbius, turned toward the Subura. I must go to Sporus, said he to himself, and pour out a little wine to Fortuna. I have found at last. I have been seeking this long time. He is young, irascible, bounteous as mines in Cyprus, and ready to give half of his fortune for the Lycian linnet. Just such a man have I been seeking this long time. It is needful, however, to be on one's guard with him, for the wrinkling of his brow forebodes no good. Ah, the whelp's lord, it over the world today. I should fear that Petronius less. O gods, but the trade of procurer pays better at present than virtue. Ah, she drew a fish on the sand. If I know what that means, may I choke myself with a piece of goat's cheese. But I shall know. Fish live under water, and searching under water is more difficult than on land. Ergo, he will pay me separately for this fish. Another search pursue I might cast aside the beggar's wallet and buy myself a slave. But what wilt thou say, Chilo, were I to advise thee to buy not a male but a female slave? I know thee, I know that thou wilt consent. If she were beautiful like Eunice, for instance, though thyself wilt grow young near her, and at the same time wilt have from her a good and certain income. I sold that poor Eunice 2 threads from my old mantle. She is dull, but if Petronius were to give her to me, I will take her. Yes, yes, Chilonides, thou hast lost father and mother, thou art an orphan. Therefore buy to console thee even a female slave. She must indeed live somewhere. Therefore Vinicius will hire her a duelling in which though two Mayas find shelter, she must dress, hence Vinicius will pay for the dress, and must eat, hence he will support her. Ouch, what a hard life. we were all Where are the times in which for an obolus a man could buy as much pork and beans as he could hold in both hands, or a piece of goat's entrails as long as the arm of a boy 12 years old, filled with blood? But there is a villain's Sporus in that wine shop. It will be easier to learn something. Those conversing, he entered in the wine shop and ordered a pitcher of dark for himself. Seeing the skeptical look of the shopper, he took a gold coin from his purse and putting on the table said, Sporus, I told today with Seneca from dawn till midday, and this is what my friend gave me at parting. The plum eyes of Sporus became plumper still at this sight, and the wine was soon before Chilo. Moistening his fingers in it, he drew a fish on the table and said, Knowest what that means? A fish? Well, a fish. Yeah, that's a fish. Thou art dull, thou dost add so much water to the wine that thou mightst find a fish in it. This is a symbol which, in the language of philosophers, means the smile of fortune. If thou hast divined it, thou too mightst have made a fortune. Honor philosophy, I tell thee, or I shall change my wine shop, and add act two which Petronius, my personal friend, has been urging me this long time. My friend